In today's video, we're going to talk about something you may have felt, but never had the courage to admit. As the years go by, especially after 60 or 70, a lot changes. Your body, your energy, your priorities, and even the way you look at the people around you. And I know what I'm about to say might sound strange, but after I turned 70, I started avoiding people. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but because I realized how valuable it is to protect my peace, my energy, and the time I have left. Maybe this has happened to you too. Have you found yourself being more selective about who you spend time with? Have you preferred staying home in peace rather than going to gatherings that don't truly fulfill you? Well, there's a reason for that. In fact, there are several, and that's exactly what I'm going to share with you today. And here's the thing. It's not about isolating yourself from the world, but about understanding that at this stage in life, every hour, every conversation, and every bit of company should be worth it. Throughout this video, I'll show you what's changed in my life, what I've learned, and how you can apply it to live with more peace, emotional well-being, and meaning. And let me give you a heads up. The last part is the most liberating of all. Once you understand it, you'll realize you'll never look at your relationships the same way again. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and come with me, because by the end of this video, you may discover the key to living the years ahead with much more lightness and fulfillment. When you reach 70, time stops being just something you measure on a calendar or a clock. It becomes almost like a character in your life, a silent companion, sometimes gentle, sometimes demanding, always reminding you that each new day is unique and will never come again. When I was younger, time felt infinite. It was as if there was an endless reserve of hours, days, and years ahead. I would allow myself to waste entire afternoons in shallow conversations, social events that drained more than they added, and obligations I accepted only to please others. I thought it didn't matter. After all, there would always be tomorrow. But after a certain age, you realize that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And surprisingly, this truth doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like a call to live more consciously. You understand that it's not about doing more things, it's about doing the right things. It's not about being with more people, it's about being with the right people. Today, every hour I have is chosen carefully, like someone selecting the ripest fruit at the market. I'd rather have a long coffee with someone who truly listens to me than be in a room full of acquaintances talking endlessly but saying nothing. I'd rather take a peaceful walk, feeling the wind on my face, than be stuck in commitments that drain my energy. And this conscious choice changes everything. When you start valuing your time this way, you realize that you're not only taking care of the hours in your day, you're taking care of your life itself. You give yourself permission to say no without guilt, to close the door on what doesn't make sense, and to make space for what truly matters. The result is a simpler life, but one that's much richer. Because in the end, it's not about how much you live, it's about how well you live. As the decades have passed, I've realized that relationships change, and they change a lot. Some grow stronger, like old trees that withstand storms, standing firm with deep roots. Others simply fade away, not because of arguments or resentment, but because life moves forward and each person takes a different path. When I was younger, I thought I had to keep every connection alive at any cost. I made an effort to remember birthdays, attend every gathering, always be available to help. I believe that was what it meant to be a good person, a good friend, a good family member. But the truth is, maintaining certain relationships requires energy that sometimes isn't returned in the same measure. There are bonds that turn into a weight, and you don't even notice until you start feeling tired, overwhelmed, or even sad after seeing someone. Today, at 70, I understand that stepping back from what doesn't make me feel good isn't selfishness. It's self-care. It's not about cutting people out of my life, but about recognizing that some are meant to play a role for a certain period, and it's perfectly fine when that cycle ends. I've also learned that we change. Our interests change. Our priorities change. Even our way of seeing the world changes. And when that happens, it's natural for certain conversations to lose their meaning, for certain environments to become uncomfortable. Now, I choose to surround myself with people who add value, who truly listen, who respect me without trying to change me. I prefer a few deep relationships over dozens of shallow connections. And interestingly, the smaller my circle gets, the richer it becomes, because everyone there matters, and every moment together holds true value. This is one of the greatest freedoms that age gives us, understanding that not everyone is meant to stay, and the relationships that remain are the ones truly worthy of our time and our heart. As the years have passed, I've realized that trust is one of the most fragile and most valuable things we can have. When I was younger, I trusted easily. I believed in people's good intentions, opened my home, my thoughts, and even my dreams without much hesitation. I thought trust was something natural, almost automatic. But life, over time, shows you that not everyone has the same intentions as you. There's the disappointment of a friend who seemed genuine, but was only around as long as there was something to gain. A family member who drifts away without explanation, leaving questions that are never answered. A business partner who puts their own interests above any agreement. These experiences leave marks. And at 70, I realize that trust is still necessary, but it needs to be built more slowly, with more observation, and above all, with boundaries. Today, I don't let just anyone into my emotional space. It's not about bitterness, it's about protection. I've also learned that trust isn't only about others. It's, first and foremost, about trusting myself, trusting my instincts when something doesn't feel right, trusting my ability to walk away from toxic environments, even if it means ending old relationships, trusting that when I say no, I'm taking care of my emotional health. Interestingly, I still meet people who restore my faith in humanity. Small gestures, like a stranger holding the door, a neighbor checking in on a rainy day, remind me that kindness still exists. But now I filter more carefully, and I value every true bond I'm able to cultivate. Today, trust is like a door, open enough to let in affection, love, and friendship, but strong enough to block anything that could harm me. And to me, that's one of the greatest achievements of growing older. As time has passed, I've noticed the world around me has changed in ways that sometimes make me long for how things used to be. It's not just the speed at which everything happens today. It's the way people relate to one another. When I was younger, neighbors were almost like family. We knew each other by name, knocked on doors without warning, shared coffee together, and offered help before anyone had to ask. Conversations happened on sidewalks, on front porches, and there was no rush. There was time to listen, time to be present. Today, it feels like everyone is chasing something: success, recognition, money, or simply trying to keep up with the demands of modern life. Visits have become rare, conversations are rushed and often superficial. Even within families, I sometimes feel that bonds have stretched thin, weakened by both physical and emotional distance. Technology has brought many conveniences, yes. I can see my grandchildren's faces from miles away, or talk to friends I haven't seen in years. But I also noticed that screens have created invisible barriers. The lack of eye contact, the tone of voice, the warm hug that says more than 1,000 words, the constant hum of notifications, news, and endless information makes me feel like the world has grown noisier and, paradoxically, lonelier. Sometimes, all I want is to turn off my phone, close the door, and retreat into the silence, just to hear my own thoughts again. It's not that I dislike change. I know every era has its value, but I miss the depth of relationships, the time when being together was truly appreciated. Today, I realize it takes a conscious effort to have real conversations, to disconnect from the rush, and to genuinely connect with someone. That's why, at 70, I choose to seek and preserve what is still genuine. I prefer a few meaningful moments over many empty interactions, because, in the end, it's those real encounters that leave good marks and lasting memories. For a long time, I associated being alone with feeling lonely. In my younger years, the idea of spending an evening without company seemed sad to me, almost as if it were a sign that something was wrong. I thought I always needed to be surrounded by people to feel alive. But time and life taught me that there's a huge difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is an emptiness. It's that feeling that something is missing, that you want to be with someone but can't, or you can't find the right person. Solitude, on the other hand, is a state of fullness. It's being at peace with your own company, without needing distractions to fill the silence. Today, at 70, I realize that some of my happiest and most meaningful moments happen precisely when I'm alone. It's in the quiet of the morning with a hot cup of coffee in my hands that I can hear the birds singing, feel the sunlight coming through the window, and simply exist. It's during an unhurried walk with the wind on my face that I put my thoughts in order. It's while leafing through a book with no set time to finish, or writing memories that perhaps no one will ever read, that I find a kind of joy that doesn't depend on approval or company. Solitude has also given me space to reflect on life, to revisit old memories without pain, but with gratitude. I've been able to accept past mistakes, value victories, and understand that every experience, good or bad, brought me to where I am today. This doesn't mean that I've cut off the world around me. I still deeply value being with my grandchildren, meeting a dear friend, or taking part in a special family moment. The difference is that now, these interactions are choices, not obligations. I no longer force myself to attend gatherings that leave me feeling empty. I prefer quality over quantity. And perhaps this is one of the greatest lessons of this stage in life: learning to enjoy your own company, to respect your own limits, and to understand that sometimes silence is more comforting than 1,000 words. Solitude has taught me that my worth is not in the number of people around me, but in my ability to be whole with myself.
After 7 decades of living, learning, helping, and many times getting hurt, I've come to a simple but transformative conclusion. Avoiding certain people is not a sign of bitterness, it's a sign of protection. protection of my peace, protection of my energy, protection of the little yet precious time I still have ahead. For many years, I was the kind of person who always put others first. I gave my time, my shoulder, my ear, always trying to be the friend who's there, the reliable family member, the support everyone could count on. I believed that always being available was a virtue, and for a long time, it made me feel good. But life is also a teacher, and sometimes the most important lessons take decades to learn. Over time, I realized that some relationships drained much more than they offered, that some people only showed up when they needed something, that certain company was, in reality, a burden disguised as affection. There were moments when I ignored clear signs that something was wrong because I wanted to believe in the good side of people. There were situations where I accepted small daily wounds, thinking this is normal, or it's just part of being loyal. Today, I understand that I don't need that anymore. Avoiding people who bring drama, who don't respect my time, who don't truly care about my well-being is not selfishness. It's self-care. This doesn't mean closing myself off from the world. It means creating space for what is real, genuine, and reciprocal. I maintain and take good care of the relationships that prove their value with actions, not just words. And I've realized that with a smaller but more genuine circle, every conversation is richer, every moment more special, because it's there by choice, not obligation. Avoiding what doesn't do me good has, perhaps, been one of the most liberating decisions of my life. I often find myself wondering, do other people my age feel the same way? Does time naturally make us more selective, more careful about who we let into our lives? Or is it the disappointments, betrayals, and emotional wear and tear that teach us, sometimes the hard way, to guard our hearts and put peace above everything else? Looking back, I can see that much of my younger life was spent trying to please others, meet expectations, and be everything to everyone. I wanted to be the reliable friend, the loyal partner, the present family member, and in doing so, I often put my own needs last. In the end, I realized that after giving so much of myself, there was very little left for me. Over time, I learned to say no without guilt. I learned that choosing solitude over a meaningless gathering isn't isolation, it's self-care. I learned that there's nothing wrong with wanting space to breathe, reflect, and simply be without having to justify it to anyone. Maybe you felt this too. Maybe you've started to pull away from relationships that no longer add value, from conversations that drain you, from environments that take more energy than they give. Maybe you've realized that when it comes to the people in your life, quality matters infinitely more than quantity. And yes, it's a process. Sometimes this change feels like letting go of a part of who we used to be. But in reality, it's making room for something far greater: peace, joy, and the things that truly matter in this stage of life. If you can relate, know that you're not alone. There's no rule book for living this chapter. Everyone finds their own way. Some remain happy in large social circles, while others find fulfillment in smaller, deeper connections. And that's perfectly fine. What matters is that after a certain age, life is no longer about pleasing everyone. It's about living authentically, lightly, and without apologizing for choosing what's best for your soul. Reaching the age of 70 has made me see life not as a series of endings, but as a series of new beginnings. Each stage brings its own challenges, lessons, and beauty, and this one is no different. This chapter of life, with its calm, simplicity, and deeper reflections, feels like the sum of everything I've lived. It's the moment to embrace who I've become and to let go of everything that no longer makes sense. When we're young, we live with a constant urgency to achieve more, do more, prove more. We carry an almost restless desire to reach what's out there, always believing happiness lies in the next step. But with time, we realize that much of what we've been searching for was in truth right here, in the present. It's not about giving up, it's about changing focus. Now, the value lies in the simple moments. The morning light streaming through the window, the laughter of a grandchild, the warm embrace of someone you love. These little things become great because they are what sustain us and remind us of what truly matters. It's also a time to reflect on the road traveled. I look back not with regret, but with gratitude, for the victories that filled me with pride, for the mistakes that taught me resilience, and even for the pains that shaped me in ways I couldn't understand before. Every experience, big or small, has been a thread in the fabric of my life.
And yet, it's not just about the past. There is a quiet joy in knowing there is still time to create, to learn, and to grow. Time to tend a garden, explore a new hobby, or simply be fully present in the moment. The greatest freedom of this stage is being able to say no. No to obligations that drain your energy. No to relationships that no longer hold meaning. No to the pressure of trying to be everything to everyone. By doing this, we make space for what truly matters: peace, love, and genuine connection. At 70, I no longer fear being judged for my choices. I'm proud to have earned the right to live on my own terms, to prioritize my well-being, and to speak my truth. In the end, embracing this chapter means accepting the past without clinging to it, living the present fully, and looking to the future with hope. It means finding beauty in everyday life, nurturing the relationships that matter, and letting go of everything that doesn't bring peace. It's not always easy. There are moments of loneliness, of longing, of wondering what comes next. But even in those moments, there's a quiet strength reminding me I've made it this far and I have everything I need to keep going. Perhaps this is the most authentic, honest, and peaceful chapter of my entire journey. And it's in this chapter that I choose to live, one day at a time, deeply, truthfully, and without fear of being who I truly am. And if you've made it this far, maybe you've felt that, in some way, these words also speak about you. Because deep down, this stage of life isn't just about age. It's about freedom. The freedom to choose how to spend the time we have left, who to share it with, and, most importantly, how to take care of ourselves.
If you're over 60, there's one movement that might seem simple and even healthy, but it could be quietly raising your risk of having a stroke while you sleep. No pain, no warning, and in many cases, no second chance. You go to bed feeling fine and could wake up unable to speak, move an arm, or even recognize your own family. I'm a brain specialist, and I've spent more than 30 years treating stroke patients. But the cases that have marked me the most didn't come from obvious bad habits like smoking or poor diet. They came from something far more unexpected: exercises everyone believes are safe. Stretches, movements, and senior-friendly workouts that, when done at the wrong time or in the wrong way, can overload your blood vessels, spike your blood pressure, and create clots that travel to your brain in the dead of night. Today, here on the Longevity Channel, I'm going to show you 9 common exercises that could be putting your brain at risk, even if you feel healthy and think you're doing everything right. Because after 60, what used to be healthy can now be dangerous. And pay close attention. Exercise number 5 is the most deceptive of all, because it doesn't hurt, doesn't seem risky, and takes less than a minute, but if misunderstood, it can change your life forever. Toe touches and forward bends, the hidden danger. It looks harmless, even healthy. You bend forward to stretch your back or legs, touch your toes before bed, or bend down to pick something up from the floor. Maybe you've been doing it for decades without a second thought. But after 60, this simple movement can hide a silent risk to your brain, and yes, even to your life. As a brain doctor, I've seen this pattern many times. When you bend too quickly, blood rushes down to your legs. In a younger body, your system quickly reacts to send blood back to your brain. But with age, the natural sensors that regulate this flow, called baroreceptors, lose efficiency. The result? Blood takes longer to return to your head. On the outside, it may seem like just a brief dimming of vision or a quick wave of dizziness. Inside, that delay creates the perfect conditions for your blood to thicken, your circulation to slow, and tiny clots to form. And if one of those clots travels to a narrow artery deep inside your brain, the outcome can be devastating. Loss of speech, blurred vision, loss of balance, or even permanent paralysis. Real story. Edward, 74, a retired history teacher, always started his day by bending down to touch his toes, something he'd done since he was young. One morning, he felt a slight dizziness, ignored it, and went on with his day. Hours later, while gardening, he suddenly collapsed. The diagnosis, an ischemic stroke, caused by a clot that had formed after a drop in blood pressure from those early morning stretches. How to protect yourself. Rise slowly after bending forward. Take a deep breath before returning to an upright position. When putting on socks or shoes, sit down instead of bending from standing. If you feel dizzy, stop immediately. Here on Longevity, we always remind you, movement is essential, but it must be adapted to the reality of your body today, not to what you could do at 30 or 40. And if you think bending forward is risky, wait until you see the next exercise. It's marketed as relaxing and rejuvenating, but for many people over 60, it can cause a dangerous spike in brain pressure that can change life forever. Inverted yoga poses, the hidden brain pressure danger. Yoga is often seen as a symbol of healthy aging, stretching, breathing, calming the mind. And yes, in many cases, it can be extremely beneficial. But there's one group of poses, called inverted poses, that can be dangerous for those over 60, especially if you have a history of high blood pressure, aneurysms, circulation problems, or take certain blood pressure medications. I'm talking about movements like legs up the wall, downward dog, or deep forward bends with the head below the heart. These positions, often marketed as relaxing or rejuvenating, can cause a rapid and intense increase of blood flow to the brain. In aging blood vessels, which may be stiffer, inflamed, or weakened, that sudden pressure can cause swelling, rupture, or spasms. What happens inside your body? As we age, our brain's self-regulation system, like a safety valve that balances pressure, becomes less efficient. This means that when blood pools in your head for even a few minutes, pressure rises, oxygen levels fluctuate, and the risk of clot formation increases. Real story. Mrs. Evelyn, 74 years old, a retired art teacher, attended a senior yoga group twice a week. During the legs up the wall pose, she felt a sharp pain behind her eyes, but ignored it. That night, her daughter found her collapsed beside the bed, confused and unable to speak. At the hospital, the diagnosis was a hemorrhagic stroke in the back of the brain, triggered by a sudden spike in cranial pressure during the pose. The saddest part? This could have been prevented. No one had explained that for seniors with certain conditions, these poses aren't safe.
How to protect yourself. Avoid poses that place your head below your heart for more than a few seconds. Choose adapted versions, seated or lying down, that don't reverse blood flow. If you feel pressure behind your eyes, dizziness, or fatigue after class, stop immediately and seek medical advice. Look for yoga instructors with training in senior care. Here at Longevity, we always remind you not everything labeled gentle or relaxing is automatically safe. Your body changes, and the way you care for it should change too. And if this pose can put so much pressure on the brain, wait until you see the next activity on our list. It's as simple as carrying grocery bags, but it can spike your blood pressure in seconds and cause a blood vessel to rupture without any warning. Lifting weights, even grocery bags, and the hidden risk to your brain. Staying strong in your senior years is something we all want. Carrying your own grocery bags, lifting a grandchild, moving a potted plant. All of it gives you that sense of independence that you can still do things without depending on anyone. But there's a detail almost no one talks about, and it can turn a simple act of strength into a serious risk for your brain. We're not just talking about lifting weights at the gym. Even picking up a heavy grocery bag, a bucket of water, or a box of supplies can cause a sudden spike in blood pressure, putting enormous stress on your blood vessels. The bigger problem, when we exert ourselves and, without even realizing it, hold our breath, which is very common, something called the Valsalva maneuver occurs. This internal pressure shoots up quickly, affecting your chest, heart, and even circulation in your brain. In blood vessels that are already stiffer or narrowed from aging, high blood pressure, or cholesterol buildup, this sudden surge can rupture the wall of a blood vessel, dislodge a fatty plaque buildup, form a clot that can travel to your brain. All of this can happen in seconds, often without pain or warning. A true story. George, 82, retired, had always been strong and proud of his independence. One day, while helping his wife unload the car, he lifted a heavier box of groceries. In that instant, he felt pressure in his head and collapsed. At the hospital, the diagnosis was an ischemic stroke caused by a dislodged plaque in his carotid artery, most likely triggered by the strain and sudden pressure surge. He survived, but now uses a walker and attends physical therapy to regain some of his strength and speech. How to protect yourself. Choose lighter loads, dividing the weight into more trips. Never hold your breath when lifting. Exhale slowly as you rise. Use carts, straps, or tools to reduce strain. Ask for help when the weight is excessive. It doesn't take away your independence, it preserves your health. At Longevity, we always say your strength is not just in your muscles, but how you care for your body so it can keep serving you for years to come. And if lifting can create such dangerous pressure, wait until you hear about the next movement. It's simple, common, and included in almost every senior exercise program. But if done too quickly, it can steal oxygen from your brain in seconds. The hidden danger of getting up too quickly from bed or a chair. Have you ever felt slightly dizzy, lightheaded, or unsteady when getting out of bed in the morning or standing up quickly from a chair? If so, it might be more serious than you think, especially after the age of 60. This sensation has a name: orthostatic hypotension. It happens when your body can't adjust your blood pressure quickly enough when you change positions, like going from lying down to standing up. The result? A brief drop in blood and oxygen flow to your brain, and that short moment can be enough to cause strong dizziness, increasing your risk of falls, sudden fainting, which can lead to serious injuries, and in more severe cases, a transient ischemic attack or even a full stroke. And the most concerning part, many people think these signs are just normal aging and never seek help or change the habit.
What can you do about it? When waking up, don't stand up all at once. Sit on the edge of the bed, take a deep breath, and wait a few seconds before standing. Stay well hydrated throughout the day. Dehydration is one of the leading causes of low blood pressure in seniors. Avoid standing for long periods while fasting. And always talk to your doctor if this dizziness happens frequently. A golden tip: keep a small water bottle next to your bed and drink a little before getting up. This helps your circulation adjust more gently in the morning.
Here on the Longevity Channel, our motto is, every movement should be made with awareness, because it's in being gentle with your body that you find more strength and more life. And in the next part, we'll talk about something even more concerning, a common food that seems harmless, but can significantly increase the risk of stroke if consumed the wrong way. Innocent foods that can increase stroke risk at night. You've probably heard it before, it's fruit is always healthy. Well, that's not always true, especially when it comes to brain health after 60. Fruits are wonderful sources of vitamins, fiber, and antioxidants, but when eaten at night in excess, especially in the form of juice, they can silently become a real risk. Why? Because of blood sugar spikes. Even natural fruit juices have a high glycemic index. They enter your bloodstream quickly, causing a rapid increase in blood sugar and forcing your body to produce insulin fast. During the day, your metabolism can usually manage it, but at night, when your body slows down and prepares for rest, this sugar spike can make your blood thicker, increasing the risk of clots. Raise your blood pressure during sleep, which is a direct stroke risk. Disrupt your sleep, affecting brain function the next day. And the worst part? Most people have no idea that a harmless glass of juice before bed could silently harm their brain. How can you avoid this risk? Avoid fruit juices at night, especially orange, grape, apple, or pineapple. If you want a snack, go for low glycemic fruits with fiber, like kiwi or an apple with the peel. And whenever possible, eat the whole fruit instead of drinking the juice. It keeps the fiber and prevents glucose spikes. Here on the Longevity Channel, we believe that living longer also means knowing what and when to avoid. Small choices at the end of your day can give you many more years of clarity and health. And speaking of health decisions, in the next part, we'll talk about a very common surgery that, after age 65, may do more harm than good. Arthroscopy after 65, what no one tells you. You feel some discomfort in your knee or hip, nothing that stops you from walking, but it bothers you. Then the doctor suggests what sounds like a simple fix. Let's do an arthroscopy. It's minimally invasive, quick, and you'll go home the same day. It sounds harmless, a small cut, a micro camera, and a little cleanup in the joint to remove fragments, smooth cartilage, or fix a small tear. But here's what most people don't hear. After age 65, this type of surgery can often cause more harm than good. What actually happens? Even though it's called minimally invasive, arthroscopy is still surgery, and surgery always comes with a recovery period, limited movement, less weight on the operated leg, avoiding stairs or walking for days or even weeks. If you're 30, that downtime might not be a big deal, but if you're 70 or 80, those few weeks of inactivity can lead to a loss of strength that never fully returns. Donna Helena's story. Donna Helena, 81, was a retired librarian. She walked to the market every day, felt a little discomfort in her knee, and her doctor recommended an arthroscopy. The surgery was done in the morning, and she went home the same day. But during recovery, she stopped walking, needed a walker, and when she came to see me, she couldn't get up from a chair without help. She had lost almost 40% of her thigh strength. What was once just a little annoyance turned into a serious problem, dependence, and fear of walking alone. What the science says. Multiple studies show that for age-related joint wear, arthroscopy often does not bring lasting benefits in terms of pain or mobility, but it does increase the risk of infection, blood clots, anesthesia complications, and especially muscle loss due to inactivity.
What you should ask before saying yes to surgery. Are there clear studies showing that this procedure will actually help in my case? Have I already tried conservative treatments like physical therapy, strength exercises, walking?
What is the risk of losing leg strength during recovery? Here at the Longevity Channel, we don't want to scare you. We want to empower you. The truth is, not every procedure is worth it at a certain age. And in the next section, we'll talk about something even more surprising. A test that lasts less than a minute, but if misinterpreted, can make you believe you're weak even when you're not. And that belief alone, it can silently rob you of your strength. Innocent foods that can increase stroke risk at night. You've probably heard it before, fruit is always healthy. Well, that's not always true, especially when it comes to brain health after 60. Fruits are wonderful sources of vitamins, fiber, and antioxidants. But when eaten at night, in excess, especially in the form of juice, they can silently become a real risk. Why? Because of blood sugar spikes. Even natural fruit juices have a high glycemic index. They enter the bloodstream quickly, causing a rapid increase in blood sugar and forcing your body to produce insulin fast. During the day, your metabolism can usually manage it, but at night, when your body slows down and prepares for rest, this sugar spike can make your blood thicker, increasing the risk of clots. Raise your blood pressure during sleep, which is a direct stroke risk. Disrupt your sleep, affecting brain function the next day. And the worst part? Most people have no idea that a harmless glass of juice before bed could silently harm their brain. How can you avoid this risk? Avoid fruit juices at night, especially orange, grape, apple, or pineapple. If you want a snack, go for low glycemic fruits with fiber like kiwi or an apple with the peel. And whenever possible, eat the whole fruit instead of drinking the juice. It keeps the fiber and prevents glucose spikes. Here on the Longevity Channel, we believe that living longer also means knowing what and when to avoid. Small choices at the end of your day can give you many more years of clarity and health. And speaking of health decisions, in the next part, we'll talk about a very common surgery that after age 65 may do more harm than good.
Reaching this stage of life, after so many stories, victories, and challenges, has taught me something far beyond medicine or test results. True strength is not only in our muscles, but in how we choose to live each day. After 60, 70, or 80, it's not about racing against time. It's about making the most of the time we have with health, independence, and peace of mind. And that starts with making conscious decisions, asking the right questions, and taking care every day of what keeps us standing: our legs, our mind, and our courage. If this video brought you clarity, remember, prevention lies in the small choices you make daily. And if you want to dive even deeper into this subject, I've prepared a special ebook with exercises, habits, and strategies to keep your legs strong and your independence intact after 60. You'll find it right below this video, available for a symbolic value. By getting it, you'll not only receive a practical guide to start applying today, but you'll also be supporting the Longevity Channel to keep creating serious and transformative content for your health and quality of life. Because aging is inevitable, but losing your strength and joy for life doesn't have to be.